the term wheelchair bound
Hmm.
is used quite frequently in the media, and that always bothered them and now me and us because we're not bound to our wheelchairs.
Well, hello, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in today for the Create Your Fate podcast. I have an amazing, amazing, amazing gift for you today. Joci Scott is here with me today. How are you, Joci?
Hi, I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing so wonderful. We are connecting. You are out of LA, so we are on Zoom here. You are an actress, a singer, a dancer, a content creator. You do it all. And I am so happy that you are on the show with me today. I met you out in LA when I was there because you live there now. You're from Ohio, but
Yes.
I saw you, what was that, August or September, I think, when I went
Mhm.
to I was going to this Mind Body Bold conference, and you were there as a performer. And I want to just briefly talk about the performance. You performed with a group called the Rollettes, which I absolutely was one of the most inspiring performances I've ever seen. And I want to just go back into this just a little bit and just talk about it briefly. But at the age of 20, you became paralyzed by sustaining a T12 spinal cord injury when your family survived a plane crash.
Yeah.
So that is amazing. You survived a plane crash. That's just
Mhm.
wow. So just tell me briefly a little bit about that experience and what happened immediately after that.
Yeah, so it was a freak accident. I have grown up flying with my dad. Pretty much as early as I can remember, I've been flying with him, and it was just a routine. We were flying to pick up my sister from camp,
Wow.
and my dad realized that we were running out of fuel, and went to make a urgent landing
Yeah.
at the nearest airport in New York, and we landed in a field about 2 miles short of the runway.
Wow.
Yeah. So we are all just so grateful to be here.
Yeah.
First and foremost, just lucky to be alive and grateful that we all still have each other.
So
Um,
everybody survived the plane crash.
yes.
And that,
Yes.
yeah, wow, what a miracle.
Yes. There were four of us, and thankfully we all survived. My dad had some head trauma, but has fully recovered,
Hmm.
which we're so grateful for. And when we landed, I immediately knew that something was wrong because I went to get up and I couldn't.
Wow.
So at first, like your brain just goes into shock, right? Because barring the accident, what had just happened, then I couldn't move, and I just remember shutting down
Mhm.
and just trying to survive that experience, like emotionally.
Yeah.
And so I went to the hospital. I had a about 8 hour surgery to fuse my spine, to help my back heal, and get rid of some of the internal bleeding. But that was my only injury,
Hmm.
the back injury, which they were shocked by.
Yeah.
Um, but I went through months, 2 years actually, of physical therapy just to gain my independence back.
Hmm.
You see in the movies people get paralyzed and they just kind of like bounce back really quick. Like they're like, oh, I'm going to walk again. And then they do it.
Yeah.
But that's not really what it's like in real life most of the time. Some people
Hmm.
are lucky enough to regain motion in their limbs, but I was not.
Hmm.
And that was a hard thing to kind of come to terms with,
Yeah.
initially, especially because this was all during the onset of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So,
That's just
yeah.
even just another added layer to that. So when you're, you know, how long did that take you to come to terms with that? What was that process like of accepting it and being hopeful at the same time? And what was that journey like?
Well, initially I was fully like, I'm going to do whatever I can to heal whatever I can.
Hmm.
And my mom, she is a doctor, a functional medicine doctor. So
Hmm.
she's kind of in this realm that we're in right now.
Yeah.
Um, she was a huge supporter of me. She did all this research. You know, she talked to countless doctors and therapists and different therapy techniques that are like new and up and coming. And we tried so many different things. We tried electrical stimulation therapy. We tried stem cell therapy. We tried basically everything that was accessible to us here in the States. And during COVID, you know, I got sent home from college after already being home for a semester to recover. Went back to college, and then 2 months later, I had to go back home.
Yeah.
That was a big bummer, and that was kind of when, you know, that was when I had the time to just kind of sit there with my thoughts.
Yeah.
And be like, I'm gonna keep trying, but they say, you know, 2 years is about when you're gonna get as much back as you can. Like 2 years is about the healing period for nerve damage. So I said to myself, like, I'm going to give myself 2 years. I'm going to give it everything I've got, but I'm not going to spend my whole life working towards something that I don't know if it's going to happen, because there's so much more to life than physical therapy.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It does not take away from your purpose, you know?
Right.
It just...
And yeah. I kind of came towards the end of the 2 years, and that was when I started getting connected with the Rollettes.
Yeah, so this is what I saw you, the Rollettes. So yeah, how did you get hooked up with them? Your performance was awesome. So tell us what the Rollettes are and how you got hooked up with them.
Yes, so the Rollettes is a all-women's wheelchair dance team, and we are expanding rapidly into a women's empowerment company, and our mission is to empower women to live boundlessly and shift perspectives through dance,
which is
and
awesome.
Other ways.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So the Rollettes started back in 2012 by a extraordinary woman named Joci Hill, who was injured in a drunk driving accident at the age of 17. And she grew up in the competitive dance field, and she knew that she wanted to continue dancing and just continue doing what she loved. So she invited some girls, I think there were like maybe five to 10, some girls in wheelchairs that she knew, to come to her hometown, and just like they rented out a dance studio and they just danced together. And that was kind of how the Rollettes was born.
Yeah.
I love that story. It's so fun.
I love that story. And even just, again, I have this purpose, right? It shifted, right? But or maybe I'm just more enlightened to it now. But even with Joci starting the Rollettes, it's like, no, this is my mission. This is my purpose, you know? So then how did you get tied into the Rollettes?
Yes. So back in 2012, the Rollettes started. It was very small, and I was injured in 2019. So between 2012 and 2019, the organization grew massively, and they got a lot of like national recognition, and they became big on social media. Yeah. And so social media is how I found them, actually. During the pandemic, I've been following Joci for a while. My college roommate actually had sent me her page right after my accident. I was like, oh, this girl, like, she looks really cool.
Yeah. Like, what a cool thing to do.
Yeah. But during the shutdown, they started doing Instagram live dance classes. And I was like, you know, I'm just sitting at home. Why not?
Yeah.
Why don't I just like log on and just see what it's all about? And I tried it, and I didn't love the format of Instagram Live because it was hard to like interact with her and like ask her questions.
Yes. Yeah. But you had to get real close to the screen and read all the comments at once. And then for a hot second there, it was like frozen because everybody's, it was a rough time.
Yeah. So I didn't love that format, but then they transitioned to Zoom. So then I was like, okay, so I like tried the Zoom class, and I really liked it. I just loved like her style of choreography, and like I felt like I was dancing again.
So you had also grown up dancing too.
Yes. Yeah. So I grew up mainly in theater, but with musical theater comes dance.
Right.
So I danced when I was little, and then transitioned more into like theater dancing. But performing was always a huge part of my life.
Yeah.
And So I just watched not only how she continued to dance and the other girls too, but I would look at them and I would see these women who are just living their lives unapologetically, taking it taking it in stride,
Hmm.
if you will. You know,
Yeah.
life with a disability, you could still do whatever you want. And
Right.
that
Right.
really spoke to me.
Right. What had your thoughts been before seeing the Rollettes and seeing this experience and participating in it? Did you feel like you would be very limited and that you, I know your mission is boundless, babes, which we'll get into, but did you feel like you were not able to do all these things that you loved just because of your accident?
Yeah, it was very overwhelming at first.
Hmm.
I actually, when I got home from the hospital 2 months after the accident, my community theater that I had been with for a while reached out to me and they said, "We need another ensemble member. Like, would you be interested?" And I remember being so hesitant because I was like, I can barely sit up for more than like 4 hours at a time. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know what this is going to look like. And they were like, we're willing to figure it out with you. And that was really encouraging. And I remember my parents and my boyfriend, who's now my husband, Alex,
Yes.
they were all so encouraging. They were like, you just need something to get your mind off of everything that you're dealing with in your therapy. And I was
Hmm.
like, okay, so I go. I'm such a perfectionist, but I was like, so I go, and my goal is just to have fun and not worry about what it looks like. And of course, that was hard. But I remember like doing the dance rehearsals and thinking to myself, like, it doesn't look like what everyone else is doing because I was the only wheelchair user. I was like, it doesn't look the same. But then I had been watching the Rollettes and everything, and I was like, it doesn't have to look the same. The movement just has to translate the same.
Hmm.
It's like another language.
Yeah.
And that was really cool and that really helped encourage me. But I didn't fully realize my full potential, maybe because I was still healing
Hmm.
so much at the beginning, but I didn't realize my full potential until I joined the Rollettes.
Hmm. That's awesome. So you go from taking the classes on Zoom. How did you get hooked up with becoming a part of the team? And you're still living in Ohio at this point. You hadn't moved out to
Mm-hmm.
LA yet. Yeah. How did you
Yes.
transition to be a team member?
Yes. So the Rollettes have a program called the Boundless Babe Society, and that is a mentorship program for women with disabilities. There's a teen program as well, but I was in the adult program at the time, and that's more of a personalized like mentorship program that covers different topics each month. There are monthly videos, monthly homework, and then you meet once a month with your mentors and other girls to kind of just talk about the month's topic.
Hmm.
And so that was how I first got involved with them because it was all about achieving your goals. And I was like, I love that. And the community was like a great opportunity for me. So
Hmm.
I joined that and I learned a lot. But Chelsea started like noticing me, and I was taking private lessons with her as well, private dance lessons.
Hmm.
And that was when I really like got on her radar.
Yeah.
And she was like, "So when are you moving to LA?" And I was like, I don't
You're like,
know.
what?
Yeah. So we just continued to stay in touch. And then at the beginning of 2021, she asked me to join the team as a little sister,
Hmm.
which the little sisters, they're part time members of the Rollettes. So we have responsibilities on social media, and you still act as a role model. And everybody comes to the yearly Rollettes experience, but you don't have to live in LA to be a little sis.
Hmm. Okay,
So
got it.
that was what I did for the first January, August. That was what I did for the first like 9 months. And then I moved to LA in September of that year.
Okay, so what inspired the move to LA?
I was just like, I had just graduated college in May of 2021, and I had taken an acting for the camera class. And I was like, I love theater. Theater will always hold a special place in my heart. But I kind of fell in love with how real camera acting is
Hmm.
and how, like, the camera doesn't lie. It's impossible to lie to a camera because it's
Yeah.
going to see everything and it's so authentic and raw. And I fell in love with that. And I was like, if I if I go all in, if I move to LA, do this acting thing, do the Rollettes, what do I have to lose?
Mm-hmm.
Like, my life has already taken such a different direction. And I was studying psychology in college, but I was like, school's always going to be there. If I want to go get my master's, if I want to go get my doctorate, I can always do that. But right now is the time for me to be young, pursue my dreams, and not have any like real adult responsibilities.
Yeah, like nothing holding you back, right?
Yes.
I mean, right? Whether that be, your accident, whether that be a master's, right? Like, no, nothing's going to hold me back from pursuing my dreams.
Mm-hmm.
So
Exactly.
you decided, hey, I'm gonna do this because now's the time, right?
Yes.
So did you talk this over with was he your fiance at the time, Alex, or?
No, we graduated the same year. We didn't get engaged, but he was planning the proposal and I had no idea at this point.
And you're like, I'm leaving, bye.
Well, I did talk to him and I was like, I really want to do this. Like, I feel like this is my calling.
Yeah.
And he was at a point where his career could be anywhere. And I was like, I don't want to do this without you. And he was like, okay, let's go.
That's awesome. And what did your family think too? Were they supportive as well?
They were. My mom was a little bit like holding onto my leg as I left. But I know that they are really happy for me. And I still see them like all the time.
Yeah.
So it's definitely not the same, but I think our relationships, especially with my siblings, have gotten better because like I think there's just that little bit of space you need with your siblings.
Little bit of space, yeah.
Sure.
All my siblings are spread out. I'm like, hey, we've never gotten along better.
Yeah, exactly.
And with Zoom and all that, we can connect and see and FaceTime and all that. But so you make the move, you go out to LA. Then what? Like what emotions were you feeling then? Because now is it like a, well, now what do I do kind of situation? Or what was your, I guess, your role with the Rollettes at that point? Was it a full-time situation or could you still pursue acting? Or what were you feeling about that of, okay, how's this going to work out?
Yeah, so I moved, I got settled, and I was still a little cis. The contracts renew each year, so I knew that it would be a couple more months at least before. But since I was local and because of my dance experience, work ethic, etc., like they were asking me to do a lot of stuff. So I was still around them a lot, but I knew that the first thing I had to do was get into acting class, and my manager, who I've been lucky enough to be connected to through the Rollettes, he was like, you just need to focus on getting really good
at acting.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
You need to work on your craft, and then the auditions will come, the opportunities will come. So I was like, okay. So then I went to get into acting class and get started on that.
Awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
And so how long did it take for you to start seeing like the auditions come through? And I mean, I think moving out to LA to pursue acting for anybody is that alone is very daunting, because it's like so many people come to do this. And so what type of emotions were you filled with when you were like, okay, this is going to work. This is going to work. I'm going to, do my commitments with the Rollettes. I'm going to take my acting classes. Were you like, when is this going to take off for me? Or what was that? Was there fear or excitement or a little bit of both? What?
A little bit of everything. I had booked a few commercial jobs. I worked with, I did an Amazon commercial. I've worked with UGG, and we did a commercial with the Rollettes with Target
Cool.
recently.
That's awesome.
So yeah, so I like mainly lived in commercials for a while, but I was like, I want to do like TV and film. Like that's what I'm really passionate about. And I'm still kind of like playing the game a little bit, like we're waiting for me to go out on something that is like really, really good versus just kind of like continuing to put myself out there and something that might not be the right opportunity for me. I think we're kind of just playing the waiting game and
Yeah.
waiting for something that is like absolutely right at the moment. So basically what we did was like instead of waiting for the right audition to come in, we said we're going to produce our own project.
Mm. Okay, that's one way to do it. So yeah,
Yeah.
what does that look like? Because that's a whole other ball game.
Yeah. Um a dear friend of mine who I've known since I was a child, her boyfriend is a writer. So my manager was talking to me, and he has this other client who's pretty close in age to me and also is interested in acting. He was like, "Hey, I want you two to do something together, and I want you to have somebody write it for you." And I was like, "Well, that's perfect because my friend is a writer."
Yeah, the
So
stars are aligning.
yeah, so we kind of got together, and it started out as just one scene.
Mhm.
It was going to be just one scene where me and the other guy were practicing for a dance, and then we like have a moment where we like lock eyes, and then I fall out of my wheelchair. And then it kind of turned into a whole like evolved short film about like my return to dance
Hmm.
after my injury. So it was really, really personal, but super interesting. And I learned so much just about like working with a director and working with a writer and, you know, sitting there doing the same scene for 10 takes.
Mhm.
Like I learned a lot just about the whole like creation process, the filming process. And now we're in the editing process.
Yeah,
So I'm learning about that too.
you can kind of see all of the steps. So,
Yes. So it's
oh,
really cool. It's been like a great learning experience for me and also just like really fun to be creative and express myself in that way.
yeah, I think that's awesome. What do you think? You know, you said you learned a lot about all the aspects of movie making, but what did you learn about yourself during this whole transition from Ohio to LA and joining the Rollettes full time and pursuing acting?
I think my confidence has grown leaps and bounds. Like I know what I'm worth and
Hmm.
I don't obviously don't know what the future is going to hold, but I know that I have a lot of potential
Hmm.
and that I'm going to have to work hard to get there, which every day is different. Some days that's a struggle. Some days I'm like, let's do it. But I'm learning so much just about like living on my own. This is the first time I've lived alone from my parents
Hmm.
and now learning how to be a wife and a partner. My life has had so many huge transitions in the past like year and a half. But like I look at where my life was right before the accident at 20 years old and now 4 years later, like I'm amazed by the woman I've become, and I
Hmm.
still have so far to go.
Yeah, yeah, I know. 24. It's like it's such a becoming time frame, especially when you have something so traumatic like an accident that's paralyzing. It gives you a lot of life experience in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
Where you kind of got to grow up faster than most people. Where other 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds are talking about not like just more trivial things. And you're like, hey, no,
Hmm.
like I'm trying to learn how to, live as, in this new state and heal and figure out my entire life. So I think that just gives you
Hmm.
so much more life experience to appreciate, who you are. And do you think that's why, I know a lot of females struggle with self-worth. Do you think that the appreciation and the gratitude that you have for yourself, for doing all these things, do you think that fuels your positive self-worth that you have for yourself?
I definitely think so. There was the realization I had to come to that like I thought my life was going to go in one direction and now it's totally taken a right turn into this direction and I'm like that's for a reason. That's not for nothing.
Mhm.
And so like I really feel like my purpose is to be a Rolette, to be an actress, to advocate, and just to be a role model to other women who they like may have a disability, may not have a disability, but just to be a role model for strength and truly pursuing your dreams without any reservations. That's what I feel like my purpose is, and I think that really fuels a lot of what I do every day.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know a lot of people don't pursue their dreams because of fear. So what would you say helped you overcome, that fear? Or what would you say to somebody else who is struggling with that fear of, oh, I don't know what to do. Like, I don't trust myself enough to make this big move and follow my dreams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say I've absolutely 1000% been there. My dream before my accident was to perform at this summer stock theater company out west. And I prepared for that audition for months and months and months. And when I got there, I remember like visibly shaking because I was so stressed, not about the audition, but about the outcome. And so I would tell people, don't worry about the outcome. You go, you try. If you fail, then at least you can say you've tried. But don't worry about things that you can't control. And I still struggle with this, so I'm not going to be hypocritical and not practice what I preach, because it's something that I actively work towards every day. You know, you have control over so many things in your day, so focus on that. Focus your energy on that and just make the leap, because life is too short.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's that's just so true, and it rings true for me too. I'm the same way, where I mean, there's a million things that you can't control, and just being able to let them go, because if your life, how would your life be different if you were just stewing over all these things that you couldn't control? Right? You probably wouldn't have gone out to LA. You probably wouldn't have signed up for the Rollettes Zoom class even, And it's just like letting go of those things is just so beautiful. And look at all the amazing things that you've done. Right now, you've come into your purpose. And it's so funny to think of, like, I didn't even know this before this accident happened. And now it's just feels so, like right, and I know another thing, going back to even filming and movies, is a big passion of yours is representation in the film industry. So what led you to want to do that? What did you see that you didn't like?
Well, I remember like laying in the hospital bed and thinking about still wanting to be an actor. And I was thinking about how I had only ever seen one person in a wheelchair in any realm of entertainment. And that was when Ali Stroker won the Tony Award in 2019. And I was like, why is that? Because I came to keep learning about this community that I was thrown into. And I learned that, let me remember the statistic real quick. It's something like only 2% of characters on TV and film are disabled or have a disability. But of those 2%, 95% of those characters are played by able-bodied actors, non-disabled actors. So first I was like, why are there no characters to begin with?
Yeah.
And second, I was like, why are you giving these roles to non-disabled actors? And obviously, I know there are reasons for that, but that's an inner workings of the industry thing, that those reasons can be worked around.
Right, exactly. I mean, you're inspiring people to still pursue a dream of, hey, just because I'm in a wheelchair does not mean I can't go be an actress and a performer and a dancer. That's amazing. And knowing that, if people are inspired by that, they're like, hey, they're going to see you and be like, oh, there's a place for me here, right? Let me continue, mastering my craft. And, like what your coach had said, hey, just get really good at what you do,
Yeah.
That's wild. So have you seen and gotten a lot of feedback from people who you've inspired? Like, how does that feel when they reach out to you? I'm sure they do.
Yeah, on social media, I've seen a lot of people like to DM me or like leave a comment. And it does feel really good, like, to know that I'm encouraging other people to pursue their dreams. But really, I just love making connections. And social media is a beautiful way for us to formed this network that like without it, we would be so limited to only people in our immediate area.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that is part of why the Rollettes has grown so much and why Rollettes is so important to so many people, because you see yourself represented and you have a network of people that can motivate you and relate to you and just be your friend on a deeper level of understanding.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. And then, you know, when it comes to going for these roles, representation meaning more roles for, you know, I'm trying to think of how, like, what do you want representation to mean? Do you want more roles for people with disabilities or I guess, or more, like, could you go after a role? You're not bound by, oh, I only have to go after a role with disabilities. I want the main character. No, she's not written in a wheelchair, but why can't she be? You know?
Yes. Yes and yes. Yes to both.
Yeah.
So there are these two methods of casting. There's diverse casting and authentic casting. Authentic casting is casting a character within the identities that they're written as having. So racial, if they're LGBTQIA plus in that community, disabled, non-disabled, like that's authentic casting, because you're casting somebody who has lived or is part of the community that this character is part of. And diverse casting is more like Bridgerton, where a character may not be written as a certain identity, but you cast somebody who is of a different identity into that role because it doesn't matter, right? And I think that there's a need for both. There's a need to show people with disabilities as just living normal lives. You know, we have partners and we have friend drama and we have careers, and that's where the diverse casting comes in. But then the authentic casting is more of where if somebody made a movie about my life story, you would want to cast somebody who uses a wheelchair and is partially or fully paralyzed.
Because they could relate more. And
yes, and it's more authentic, which is what we want.
Yeah, so more authentic casting, more authentic roles, more authentic film on, you know, I think a lot of people, there's a taboo around, you know, disabilities where it's like, what do you think I'm doing all day? Like, I have a normal life too. So talk to me about your journey where you felt that maybe people just didn't get it. Like, did you ever feel like people felt bad for you, or where did you find your voice and your purpose in that aspect?
Yeah, so a lot of those feelings, like we all still feel like it's hard to change the opinions of so many people, right? So I try to look at it as one person at a time. So there was a time when somebody would comment something on one of my videos. A lot of what we get recently, especially with the wedding, is like, oh, he's such a good person for staying with you after your accident in relation to my husband. And that used to make us so mad.
Yeah.
Because
I'm mad hearing that.
Yeah, because like, yes, it is a lot for a 20-something kid to deal with, but like, he didn't just love me because my legs worked. Like, he loved me for the person that I am and was back then. And so that used to make us mad, but we realized that, especially me, he doesn't really have an online presence, but for me, like, approaching those comments with kindness and education over just like an angry, like, snarky response is way more effective. And so there are a couple of the Rollettes and even more people who are ambulatory wheelchair users, meaning that they're not fully paralyzed. And so anytime one of them like moves their leg or something, people are like, oh my God, you're faking it. And just responding to those comments with like grace, but education, because there is so much misinformation and so much ignorance out there, especially about the disability community. And especially as part of the Rollettes, like we try to educate with kindness and just understand that like when we were not disabled, we probably didn't know anything about it either.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. How can people learn more? I love the social media platforms, but what else? Like, what other tools can people use to learn more about this so they can be understanding and spread awareness and not, I guess, I mean, is the word ignorant? Like, I think it's ignorant to a whole community of people, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why representation does matter, in the big
Yes.
film industry, TV, all that. But I mean, what other ideas have you thought of?
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the best ways to learn is by following people on social media who just share about their lives, because that is the most authentic version that you could get, right? Instead of just googling something and maybe that's not entirely correct, or maybe it's written by somebody with a different point of view.
Mm-hmm.
But like by following people who are living it and sharing and open, like you can learn so much. And then, like you said, that's why we need good representation. Like the movie that just won Best Oscar, Coda, that stands for Child of Deaf Adults.
Mm-hmm.
Like the deaf community, that brought so much representation for the deaf community and for people with deaf family members. Like
Mm-hmm.
that movie was so authentic, and like it was a win for them. And so movies like that, where you're employing people with disabilities and you're casting more than one, like it's not just the one cast member, it's like a whole group of them.
Mm-hmm.
Like really just giving people the opportunity to use their voice
Yeah.
is so important.
Yeah. And it's awareness. So I think the film industry is definitely can be a leader in that, and social media, of course, too. But wow. No, I can only imagine how hurtful it must be to read those comments. So, I mean, that in itself is putting yourself out there in a very vulnerable place, because people on the internet are just mean,
Mm-hmm.
So how did you get over that? I guess, or like, I guess learn to deal with it, because I think people are still mean,
Yeah.
those internet trolls are real. And how did you not let that affect your self-worth?
It was really hard at first. At first I would see a mean comment and I would just delete it, because like I would know intellectually that it was somebody who doesn't know me at all, and somebody who is forced to confront their own internalized ableism and failing
Yeah.
to do so. But like emotionally, the words still hurt, right? So I would always just like take a beat and remember like what all of the nice people on the internet say to me, and how
Yeah.
like my videos positively impact other people and encourage people to follow their dreams. And I think that's why, there's the occasional mean comment, but I don't really care, because I'm positively impacting so many people, and that's what matters more to me.
Yeah. So you're focused on all the positivity that you are bringing to the world.
Yes.
I think it's a great focus, and then it's going to breed more positivity, and
Yes.
inspire more change and more
Mhm.
education, and I love the response of treating everybody with kindness and with the intention of education,
Yes.
so that's awesome. So let's talk about your wedding, because I definitely
Yeah.
wanted to talk about this. So you got married a couple months ago.
September 3rd, yes.
September 3rd. So it's been your first holiday season as a married couple is coming up.
Yeah.
And you had a goal. I watched the video online. It's beautiful, of walking down the aisle. So talk to me about like
Yes.
why that was your goal, how hard you worked to get there. Was it a surprise? Tell me all the tea.
Yes. So, although I knew in my heart that I didn't need to walk down the aisle, because that wasn't what our relationship was about, I had always dreamed, like when I was little, I always dreamed about like walking down the aisle with my dad. And when I was doing my physical therapy, you know, I have the ability to fire up my hip flexors. So that's why I can use orthotic leg braces that lock out my knees. I knew that I wanted to do that because I had seen Chelsea do it. I'd seen other women do it with maybe like an exoskeleton or something. But I knew that I wanted that moment for me. I didn't want to do it for social media or for anybody else. I wanted it for me. And I knew it was going to be hard, like most things.
Yeah.
So I trained for probably almost 2 years with those leg braces to be able to do it, because it takes a tremendous amount of upper body strength and core strength. And I worked really hard at it, and like I knew I just wanted it for me.
Yeah. Was it a surprise, or did he know?
No, it's so hard to keep things from him. And like, I don't know. He's not somebody who's very good at being surprised.
Yeah.
Like,
it's like, no, I want to be in the know.
Well, he just like freezes up, and I knew that like he would enjoy it more if he knew it was coming.
Yeah.
So I did tell him.
That's awesome. How did y'all get engaged? Was that a surprise, or are you also like the kind of person's like, no, I don't want to be surprised?
You know, I like to know for sure, but I had no idea, and like I was completely caught off guard. Like, but we were at Disney World for my birthday, and I had always joked like, what if you proposed at Disney, like in front of the castle? He was like, I would never do that. It's so public. And I was like, fine. So like I literally, this man convinced me that he would never propose to me at Disney. So
that's his greatest trick.
Yes, I went into it, and we had like 3 of my friends with us, and they all knew. I didn't know. So I'm just like rolling through the shops. It's first thing in the morning. It's like 7:30 in the morning. I'm like shopping. And they're like, let's go to the castle. Let's take a picture. I'm like, I have a million pictures in front of the castle. Like, let's just go ride something. And then he was like, no, let's go take a picture. I was like, okay, fine. So then I went over, and we were like taking pictures. He goes, I'm going to go on the other side. And I was like, okay. So then I like reposition. I turn around, and he's down on one knee. And I was like, I literally was speechless. I've never been speechless in my life.
And he got you. He knew.
He totally did.
For years, I would never do that.
You could see in the photos just the utter shock on my face.
That is awesome. That's a good surprise right there. I mean,
it was a great surprise.
That's some good planning right there. You know, like, I'd never do that. I would never. So you're just like, of course. And then you ended up getting exactly kind of like this engagement that you had planned and like or dreamed of. You know. So
yeah.
Oh my gosh. Good for him. Good job, Alex.
Yeah, he did a good job.
And then did y'all get married in Ohio or LA or?
We did get married in Cleveland.
Okay, got it.
So all of our family is still there. So
yeah. Cool.
It was nice.
Awesome. Did you go on a honeymoon?
Not yet. We're going in January after the holidays.
Oh, nice. Where are you going?
We're going on a cruise. So we're going to like Catalina and Ensenada, and
nice.
He's never been on a cruise, so that's exciting.
Yeah. I've actually never been on a cruise either. So but I feel like it would be something that I would like because it just sounds really relaxing. So
it is.
That'd be awesome. So, you know, what's next for you? What's next? What's your next boundless move? You know, we want to support this movement of everybody can be boundless. So talk to me, I guess, just a little bit about what that means to you and what's next for you.
Yes. So Boundless Babe kind of came to be. It was something that Chelsea maybe said like one off, and that it kind of just took off, and it became like this big campaign where, you know, the term wheelchair bound is used quite frequently in the media, and that always bothered them and now me and us because we're not bound to our wheelchairs. Like, I can get up and sit on the couch if I want to. Like, and we can do so many different things like biking and skiing and swimming and all kinds of things. We're not like glued to this chair. And so that's where boundless came from.
Love that.
And so boundless to me means just unapologetically like reaching for whatever it is that you want, reaching for your dreams. Despite your disability or whatever roadblocks you have holding you back.
Yeah. That's amazing. Boundless. What do you think are imperative things that you need just like internally to be boundless?
I think you need a goal.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's so important. I think you need, you don't have to be like super confident, but you need to have something driving you forward, like internally.
Yeah.
You need to have like knowledge that you can get there, or you can at least try. And I think you just need to want it. You just need to want it bad enough, because that's like most of the battle.
Yeah. That's super inspiring. You're inspiring me to like leave this podcast interview and go do all these things. Yeah, that's awesome. You gotta want it, and if you do, then nothing holds you back,
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you think, I guess internally would be a big challenge that you see women overcoming or struggling with, or something that you personally overcame or struggled with to be boundless?
That's a good question. I think, like I said before, all the what ifs. It's so easy to get caught up in like, well, what if this doesn't happen, or what if this doesn't happen? And especially with acting, like there's so many auditions that come in, and you have to want it, but you can't get too attached to it, to a certain role, because there's so many other factors than you, right? So I've kind of learned to approach it as like, I'm going to go in, I'm going to enter the mind of this character for a couple days, couple hours, however long I have until I have to submit it.
Yeah.
And then I just release it.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's meant to be, it'll come back.
Yeah. And it kind of goes, you mentioned your story about when you were going out to audition, where you were so worried about the outcome, like the results of the one audition, right, versus the experience of it. And one of my favorite mantras that literally has changed my life is releasing the outcome. I release the outcome, right? Because again, that goes back to what your point is of you can't control it,
Right.
It's focusing on that thing that you can control, and then releasing the outcome. And it's beautiful. If it's meant to be yours, it will be yours. What's for you will find you. And it comes in strange ways sometimes, but just taking it head on and believing in yourself. I think that's awesome. So
yeah, I love that. Releasing the outcome. I love that.
I've released the outcome. Yes, I do that all the time, multiple times a day, where I'm like, oh nope, I'm getting too much in my head again, like all the what ifs. What am I trying to control? It's like, no, I released the outcome. And then when you release the outcome, you actually can enjoy it more. You actually enjoy the experience more, because I would always get caught up in, well, this isn't fun because I'm so worried about the outcome. So why am I doing it? Because it's taking away the fun of the moment,
Yeah.
So that's awesome. Cool. Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on here today. This was absolutely inspirational. The moment I saw y'all in LA, I was like, oh, they have to be on my podcast. So like, Joci, thank you so much. And I loved your story. And your continued story. And we wish you the most success in LA. You're going to be famous and, waving at us from the PJ, and, do you have plans to stay in LA?
For the time being, yes.
You want to stay there? And Alex is getting, he's getting accustomed to it and likes it too.
Yes, he does.
Awesome. Cool. Well, we wish you the absolute best. I can't wait to see what's next on your journey.
Thank you so much.
People, are so inspired by you. Where can they find you? What is the easiest way to, where should we send them? Instagram or TikTok or?
Yes, Instagram and or TikTok is at Joci Scott.
Awesome. Amazing. And then we'll be seeing you in movies soon and all the things.
Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Yeah. Do you have any like big auditions coming up or?
Not that I know of, but those things could always come in at any moment. So,
Yeah. Okay. Well, we will be expecting good things
yes.
for you,
Thank
and with you.
you.
And I guess that'll lead us into our final, our little ending, I guess we'll call it. We both believe that you can create your life. You are creating your fate. And Joci, you are so, you're so young, but you're so like an old soul, like vibes where you're just so grounded and so inspirational. And just thank you for sharing your gift and your purpose with us and with others. I'm so excited to see the amazing things that you do and that you will continue to do. So if we
Thank
can say our
you.
ending together,
Yes.
if you are ready for it. So I'll do a countdown, a 3, 2, 1.
Okay.
So Joci is amazing, and if we could absolutely leave you just one lasting little thing, it would be this. It is 3, 2, 1.
Expect
Good
good
things
things
always,
always,
and they
and they
will
will
happen.
happen.
Yeah. See, you nailed that. You're gonna make it big in Hollywood, babe. I
Oh,
can just
thank
tell.
you. Thank you.
Well, thank
Thank
you.
you so much for having me.
Oh my
This was
God.
really fun. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And we will, go check out Joci and all of her amazing things. And we will talk to y'all later. It's time for you to create your fate.